one of our standards is to be able to use absolute and relative formulas. Relative formulas, most of you probably already used if you're using Excel at all, and you don't even realize that it's just called a relative formula or relative address. What that is saying, so that would just be like me typing in equals and then going to select something and then saying I want to add just another piece of data to it. This is a relative formula. You are clicking on another piece of data and referencing it throughout something else. That's relative. If our data changed and we had 51 students that entered the class through the ceiling tiles, so right now we're saying those two behaviors is 66. If I change this cell to 51, now it's changing that to 67. So as I change data that it's referencing, it's changing any math that's referencing that as well. So that's why in Excel, you're always going to want to use formulas over actually retyping those numbers, because then things will build and change for you. In absolute cell address or formula, I'm going to add a little piece of information. Let's say that total students in the school is what we'll say. And let's say that we're at a larger school than Batesville, so let's go with 1,238. That's how many students that we're going to have at BHS now. I went ahead and bolded that just for the sake of keeping things nice and uniform. Let's say that we want to find the percent of students making this behavior. We're going to assume that maybe these are all just one-time occurrences. A student isn't bringing an emotional support llama to class multiple times. It's all separate instances that are happening. If that's true, then I can find how many students, what percent of the population have brought an emotional support llama to school. So let's go ahead and call percent of students just to make sure it's, properly titled. What we would want to do at this point, most people would just say, hey, I'm going to take this number and I'm going to divide it by this. Great. You have the basic idea. However, you're going to have to click and drag that data, and that's not a big issue, but let's say that our enrollment goes up to 1,300 students. Now your formula has to be changed automatically, like by you, rather than it being changed automatically. So that data is housed right here in this cell. So from what we just learned, we should be able to click on this cell. And then if I drag this data, oh no, it shows dividing by 0 error, because when you click and drag, this is referencing this cell, but when I drag it over to this one, now this cell is going to reference this blank cell for the formula. Like if I go click on it, you'll see it's referencing C14, whereas this one was referencing B14, which is this cell. If I want to reference the same cell over and over and over again, I have to tell Excel to do that. What it uses as its symbols are dollar signs. So if I want to reference B14 over and over and over again, I need to put a dollar sign in front of my B and a dollar sign in front of my number, which is 14. Once I hit enter, now when I click and drag, that division will happen. And then I could do the same thing over here. Equals this, if I want to do it by quarter, divided by, it's in B14, so $B, $14. When I click and drag, there we go. So, and I should probably, this was the amount of students that were misbehaving in quarter one. Sorry, if I backtrack to the video. This would be the number of students that are bringing an emotional support llama to class. Now, since I said percent of students, I'm going to go ahead and jump to the next thing, which is formatting numbers properly based off of what we're saying. So since we wanted it to be a percent, anything that I'm wanting to be a percent, you have your formatting options up here. You can click and choose down this way, but there are a handful that are used often. Money, percents, comma style. So that's more based off of if you want it to have that comma or not. That's totally up to you. But since I want a percent, I would click the percent sign. Generally in mathematics, I like to round or get a couple decimal places out so I know how close am I to 24% of the population. These will mess with your decimals and how many are being shown. So if I want to show more decimals, increase decimal, let's say I want 2 of them. So really it's under 24%, but it's pretty close. And then I could decrease and go back to just showing 1 decimal if I wanted to, but I'll keep it with 2. And then I would want to do this data over here as well to match. So there's how you would use an absolute and relative formula, what the difference is between those two, and then also formatting based off of number, $, percent. I will tell you, this does not reference money at all, but just in case we were going to click this, it's going to throw that $ on the left-hand side, and it's always going to align your number for you when you go into the $ formatting. So if you want things to be centered, it's not going to be as centered now when you use that formatting. That's just something that Excel uses. And then also for reference for people who aren't Excel people, if a number pops up in red or inside of parentheses, it is a negative number. That is also how Excel is just programmed to run. So red or in parentheses means the number is negative. I'm going to take that formatting away, and then hopefully that helps you with knowing the difference between relative and absolute addresses and also formatting the number.